rumors circulate about Paramount considering a reboot for the Star Trek movie franchise. Yet J.J. Abrams' Star Trek IV presents a more promising path forward. Despite a prolonged period in development limbo and changes in directorial leadership, Star Trek IV, part of the Kelvin timeline series, has shown resilience. Recent reports hint at the possibility of a reboot, raising questions about the direction Paramount should take. After 7 years since Star Trek Beyond, the prospect of a soft reboot for Star Trek IV emerges, where the original cast could return without explicit ties to the Kelvin timeline continuity. Many fans express a desire to see more from Chris Pine and the Kelvin timeline crew. However, a full-scale reboot suggests Paramount's intention to explore entirely new territory, potentially distancing itself from the Kelvin timeline. The outcome remains uncertain, but fans hope for a continuation of the beloved crew's adventures, bringing fresh narratives while maintaining the essence of the Star Trek legacy. The decision between a sequel and a reboot of Star Trek IV prompts consideration of the franchise's longevity and audience appeal. Despite 7 years since Star Trek Beyond, the success of sequels like Top Gun Maverick, released after 36 years, challenges the notion that time alone should deter a follow-up. Historical instances, such as the ill-received Amazing Spider-Man and Fantastic Four reboots, caution against hasty relaunches within a decade. Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto's eagerness to return underscores the potential success of Star Trek IV. While a reboot might attract loyal Star Trek fans, leveraging an existing franchise with a committed cast and audience interest seems like a more viable option. Paramount Studios could capitalize on this ready-made opportunity to deliver a compelling sequel, ensuring both the continuation of the beloved series and broader audience appeal. A Star Trek movie reboot could explore untold stories from the wider canon, avoiding the challenge of recasting iconic roles like Captain Kirk. The narrative possibilities include delving into historical events like the Earth-Romulan War or the Cardassian Border Wars, and introducing a new starship crew with Hollywood stars. On the other hand, a Chris Pine-fronted Star Trek IV movie could provide closure to his character's arc, focusing on the aging crew of Kirk's Enterprise as they contemplate their legacy. Drawing inspiration from the David Marcus plot in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan could offer a compelling narrative, addressing Chris Pine's Kirk's father issues and tapping into the potential of J.J. Abrams' Star Trek cast. Rumors of a franchise reset raise concerns about missing out on the untapped potential within the existing cast. A new Star Trek movie, set decades before J.J. Abrams' Star Trek 2009, is reportedly in the works at Paramount Pictures. The last theatrical release, Star Trek Beyond, dates back to 2016, and efforts to launch Star Trek IV, produced by J.J. Abrams, have faced setbacks. Paramount Plus has thrived with successful TV series like Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Picard, and Star Trek Strange New Worlds, as well as its first made-for-streaming movie, Star Trek Section 31, featuring Michelle Yeoh. Director Toby Haynes and writer Seth Grahame-Smith are helming the new Star Trek movie, produced by J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot. Positioned as an origin story, it unfolds decades before Abrams' Star Trek 2009, set in the alternate Kelvin timeline. Simultaneously, Deadline notes that Star Trek IV, described as the final chapter in Abrams' saga starring Chris Pine, is actively under development. This saga encompasses Star Trek 2009, Star Trek Into Darkness, and Star Trek Beyond. Paramount Pictures is reportedly developing 2 new Star Trek movies, with one being an origin story set in J.J. Abrams' Kelvin timeline. The unexpected news raises questions about the timeline placement of the origin movie, whether set before or after the divergence in 2233 caused by Nero's actions. The prospect of exploring the aftermath and technological changes during Kirk and Spock's childhood is also considered. Toby Haynes, known for his work on the highly praised Star Wars Andor, is directing, adding anticipation for a potentially special project. The second surprise is the report of Star Trek IV being in active development as the final chapter in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek series. While the cast, including Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto, has expressed interest in returning, the absence of a screenwriter or director leaves the movie at a theoretical stage. Given the history of unmaterialized Star Trek movie announcements since 2016, skepticism persists among fans regarding the realization of these projects. The streaming availability of Star Trek 2009, Star Trek Into Darkness, and Star Trek Beyond on Paramount Plus is noted. Chris Pine takes on the iconic role of Captain James T. Kirk in J.J. Abrams' Kelvin timeline Star Trek reboot movies, a series that includes Star Trek Into Darkness and Star Trek Beyond. These films, produced by Abrams' Bad Robot Productions and often referred to as the Kelvin timeline movies, marked a revitalization of the Star Trek brand. Abrams' 2009 film brought characters from Star Trek, the original series, to a new audience, successfully breathing new life into the franchise after the less successful Star Trek Nemesis, the fourth Star Trek The Next Generation movie. The cast of Abrams' Star Trek movies features Zachary Quinto as Mr. Spock, Zoe Saldana as Lieutenant Nyota Uhura, Carl Urban as Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy, John Cho as Hikaru Sulu, Anton Yelchin as Pavel Chekhov, and the late Leonard Nimoy as Ambassador Spock. This ensemble not only captured the essence of the original characters, but also demonstrated that recasting iconic roles like Kirk and Spock could be done successfully. The trilogy's success paved the way for the visually impressive Star Trek Discovery and other new Star Trek series on Paramount Plus, ensuring a continued legacy of the franchise from 2017 onward. There are 3 Star Trek movies starring Chris Pine. The first is Star Trek, where Pine plays James Kirk alongside Zachary Quinto's Mr. Spock. The second installment is Star Trek Into Darkness, featuring Benedict Cumberbatch as the antagonist, Khan Noonien Singh. The third film is Star Trek Beyond, in which the Enterprise crew confronts the new enemy Krall, portrayed by Idris Elba, and is aided by the character Jayla, played by Sofia Boutella. To watch Chris Pine's Star Trek movies, subscribers can access them on Paramount Plus and services with a Paramount Plus channel, including Apple TV Plus, Amazon Prime, Roku, and Binge. In the US, Star Trek is also available on Hulu, and Star Trek Into Darkness is on DirecTV. Additionally, these movies can be rented on platforms such as Apple TV, Google Play, YouTube, Amazon Prime, and Microsoft Movies. Region-specific services like Sky and Rakuten and Cineplex Store also offer rentals. Chris Pine's Star Trek movies are set in the Kelvin timeline, a distinct alternate reality created by the destruction of the USS Kelvin in the past by the time-traveling Romulan ship Narada. This event, in turn, alters both the past and future of the timeline. The Kelvin timeline allows for narrative changes, such as Chris Pine's Kirk being born in space instead of Iowa, and it provides an in-universe explanation for the updated production design not matching the 1960s aesthetic from Star Trek the original series. As for Star Trek IV, starring Chris Pine, the project has faced challenges, including creative differences and scheduling conflicts. Between 2016 and 2020, multiple scripts were written, but each faced obstacles. Quentin Tarantino's envisioned film, a gangster-inspired departure from the traditional tone, never materialized. The father-son story between Pine's James Kirk and Chris Hemsworth's George Kirk was scrapped after the underwhelming box office performance of Star Trek Beyond. Noah Hawley's attempt to take Star Trek in a new direction was also shelved in 2020. Although new interest and faith in the Star Trek franchise emerged with successful TV series like Star Trek Discovery, the status of Star Trek IV remains uncertain. A new version of the movie was announced in 2022, with several actors, including Chris Pine, set to return. However, director Matt Shakman's departure in 2022 left the project in limbo. As of October 2023, plans for a fourth Star Trek movie with Chris Pine are uncertain, as the studio continues its search for a director. Well, that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below.